Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora continue Batman's investigation into the murders around Gotham, teaming him with Huntress, who has also been tracking down the possible serial killer. But both heroes learn that they might be way off in their investigation thanks to a strange infection and the involvement of Lady Clayface. Mariko Tamaki expertly crafts more of her interesting murder investigation mystery and tying in Huntress very organically. I very much enjoyed Tamaki isn't using the usual suspects for a story like this. You know, we're not getting Riddler or Zsasz or Mr. Freeze. Instead, we're getting Lady Clayface and more fantastic callbacks to the wonderful Gotham Knights and Monster Town stories from when James Tynion was running Detective Comics. Tamaki also involves Bruce Wayne a little bit more in the actual murder plot, even beginning to plant the seeds that could potentially put Bruce up as a prime suspect in the eyes of the Mayor and Mr. Worth and others, and in turn tying it into the whole magistrate, future state stuff and painting Bruce as an enemy of Gotham. Dan Mora again delivers just wonderful looking artwork fitting for a gritty murder investigation storyline. I thoroughly enjoyed his design for Huntress as well as the strange and gross tentacle infection that some of the people had this issue. Detective Comics issue 1036 was another hit from Tamaki and her team, continuing the wonderful murder investigation that begins involving more surprising and hardly used characters while also tying up to larger storylines that James Tynion is setting up over in the Batman ongoing. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10. Detective Comics issue 1036 sees the Gotham Gazette run a story asking if Batman is connected to the Sarah Worth murder, with both Mayor Nakano and Mr. Worth reacting to the news as outside his home, Bruce Wayne is confronted by the zombified Sarah as Lydia arrives home, watching as Sarah is pulled into Bruce's house. Inside, Sarah's body turns into a muddy clay as Bruce knows her real body's in the morgue. The being shifts into a more muddy form and Bruce thinks that it's Clayface, but knows that Basil hasn't been seen since the Gotham Knights incident a while ago. Lydia bangs on the door as the being asks for Bruce's help, but Bruce is distracted by the fact that Lydia is calling the police, meaning he needs to get the being out of sight quickly. The cops come by and Bruce feigns ignorance, wondering what the problem is. The cops say that Lydia saw him bringing someone into the home against their will, but Bruce knows that there is no one there besides him, wanting them to have a look around. The cops do so as Lydia says that she heard screaming, but Bruce says that he was just watching a horror film with the sound up too loud. The cops leave as Lydia continues to shout about what she saw. With the police gone, Bruce opens up the duffel bag he put the clay being in, wondering who they are. In the City Hall district, two of Penguin's goons look around for something suspicious, with one of them wondering what the hell does that even mean in a city like Gotham. Suddenly they are attacked by a knife-wielding madman as the reporter Deb Donovan knows that the city is rocked by seemingly endless waves of violence, but even then she knows that something is happening. Knowing that Mary Knox was killed last week and Carly Winters was strangled to death 3 days ago, and they are just among a few of the crimes that have doubled the unsolved murders of the city. Bruce meanwhile suits up and leaves through the rooftop of his apartment to dodge Lydia's prying eyes, taking off across the roofs as Lydia is confronted by Neil, who grabs her arm hard. Batman meanwhile is met by someone who wants to talk with him. Bruce doesn't think they do, but the being says that they are checking in, seeing him grab whatever he was reaching for his belt, knowing that they are a faster shot. The being is revealed to be Huntress, who wants to know what's in the bag before she shoots off his rubber ears. Bruce knows that she's been keeping an eye on him for the last couple of days as she tracks a murderer, meaning he's a suspect, and Huntress knows that there is a lot of possibilities in this crazy world, a world filled with mind control and alien body snatchers and much more. She notices the bag is oozing as the mud climbs out of it, jumping from the building. Huntress thought it was Clayface, but Batman is unsure, thinking it could be Lady Clayface. The heroes take off after the being as she takes the form of Sarah again, found by a homeless man in the alley below who wants to help her, but she screams at him. Luckily, Batman tackles the man out of the way before he is hurt, letting the man escape as the heroes are covered in clay. Told by the being they just want to be left alone. Batman knows it's definitely Lady Clayface as she demands to be let go. Huntress wonders if Clay can be killed with a crossbow bolt as Batman says that she's taking on the form of Sarah Worth, the woman Huntress saw murdered. Lady Clayface Clayface heads into the sewers, so the heroes follow, finding the woman who wants to know what's happening to her. The being confirms that she is indeed Lady Clayface, as Batman wants to take her somewhere safer since she might have the answers he needs. Later in Micro Cave 7A, Bruce asks Lady Clayface what she remembers, learning that she was at Arkham Asylum when there was an alarm and a poison that covered the area, but after that she couldn't remember, only knowing that she wasn't human and couldn't give herself proper form. Batman thinks that the poison at Arkham altered her somehow, as she tells him that she floated through the sewers away from the prison for a long time, and that's when she saw a man and a crying woman who was begging for her life. She says that the woman was saying kneel, and Huntress thinks that the man forced her to kneel down, but Batman actually thinks that she was saying the name Neil, the name of a man she knew. Batman tracks Neil's phone, as Huntress knows that even in Gotham, women are more likely killed by someone they know. In Mayor Nakano's office, Mr. Worth is angered. Workers are concreting up his daughter's crime scene, upset he wasn't told about it. Chris says that it was a clerical oversight, as the man slams his hands on the desk. Enraged, his daughter is being cut open at the moment, demanding Chris bring the man who killed her to him, or he will bring Nakano a world of hurt he has never known. He screams for the man to be given to him or Chris will pay, storming out of the office as Hugh arrives, saying the chief is waiting on the phone for Chris. Chris notes that he's working late, learning that Neil wasn't feeling too well, so he went home and Hugh is taking over. Across town, Penguin's men return with the madman who attacked them, not knowing who he is. They want Oswald to see something before they kill him though, showing their boss the man's eyes and how they are infected with some sort of pink tentacle, and that he wasn't the first they have found like this. Batman and Huntress meanwhile continue to track Neil, finding that he is on a rooftop of a nearby building. Neil meanwhile stumbles blindly around in the rain-soaked rooftop, infected with the tentacles, as well as Batman and Huntress find him. Neil soon dies as the heroes keep their distance from the infection, and Batman asks Huntress why she was tailing him. Huntress says a friend of hers, Mary Knox, was murdered violently, and she found 4 similar cases to Mary's, and she saw Sarah's on the news and the police call about Bruce Wayne, and she knew he had taken over the tunnels recently, so while she doesn't think he murdered her, she didn't have an answer either, so she came looking for him. Batman says that he thought that Sarah's murder was mob related, since factions like Penguins are moving to try and take control of Gotham crime, but this isn't mob related. Huntress thought a serial killer was on the loose, as Batman wonders if what just killed Neil also killed Sarah, since Sarah died from blunt force trauma. He sees that there is blood on Neil's hands, and it's not his, as elsewhere, Deb leaves her home, only to find the murdered Lydia out in the street.